All right. 1, 2, 3. Hey, it's the David Washington Show. I'm your host, David Washington of Jay in Washington here in Florida. And I'm really excited. I am extremely excited for my guests, my special guests, as we continue our series of interviews of members of the Black Consultants Group. I have with me Evan Higgins, co founder of Know Your Politician KYP. Evan, welcome to the David Washington Show. Thank you so much.
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And again, you're gonna hear this word over and over. My enthusiasm about
Good.
you being here because one of the things I really enjoy about what I do is the data and the opportunity to use data for good things, especially in politics. But enough about me. I would like my viewers and listeners to know who is Evan and a brief history about KYP.
Cool. So, Evan Higgins. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. I went to college in Philadelphia at Drexel University. Started out in 2013. Drexel's where I met my co-founder, Kabir Oshodi. We decided in 2016 we went to vote. We understand how that election turned out. Ultimately, we went, cast our ballots, and we knew no one on the ballot,
Hmm.
which was kind of shocking for us at that age to really think about because friends were buying cars online, they were buying houses online without stepping foot in any brick and mortar store. And this kind of spurred the idea, hence the light bulb,
Aha!
hence the light bulb of Know Your
Nice.
Politician, which really was like, this should be super easily accessible by everyone. So we spent 2016, 17 like thinking about the idea, how this would function. We ended up putting it on the shelf.
Hmm.
Then COVID came, right? And we saw a renewed interest with protests that took place over the deaths of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, a renewed interest in politics. People were asking these questions. And I learned something in business school that I'll never forget, right? People don't succeed in business because they're smart, right? They succeed because of the opportunity and then there's some luck involved, right? And what we saw was an opportunity and we felt like the protests, while people might have felt they were successful, did things really change, right?
Good point.
You could argue yes or no, but the fact is that there are still people being murdered by the police, right? Without any cause. And what we want to do is to help people understand that while it is important to understand President Biden and our Congress and how they function, they really do not operate our day-to-day lives. They have little to no influence on that. The Congress and the president are like the chairman of a large corporation. They set strategy, they set ideas, but it's really the states that execute. And it's really the states that drive everything. So, how do we help people get more activated at their state and local level? And that was how we decided to drive this platform forward to help educate everyone like, hey, we get it. The president is important. He's famous. Everyone knows who he is. But the president is not going to fix the potholes in your street, nor is
Yes.
he going to make sure your schools are funded. And we realized that in testing the platform, there was this huge divide where you had to educate people first
Okay.
before you get them to go out to vote, right? They need
Yes.
to understand that they need to prioritize the right things and then they can go vote. One of the things that was really interesting to me in this exercise when we were doing market research is I have a video on our social media platform just asking people like, what's a comptroller? Like no one knew.
Right.
It's
Yes.
like this person controls a lot of stuff at our
A
local
lot of
level and
money.
no idea what they do. And
Right.
I was like, this is the type of stuff that we needed to really focus on. And that's kind of why we've been focusing on the last couple of years of making sure we're promoting state and local elections.
And it sounds like what you're doing is at one point decentralizing how information about candidates, uh, electeds, issue politics is received by the general public, by the voting public, but at the same time centralizing it in a place that is digestible for those who are interested in knowing about candidates, elections, so forth and so on.
Yeah, and what was really interesting, so I interviewed some folks that work, behind the curtain, so to speak, in politics. They work for current mayors and governors and different parts of the state offices, and they talk about the single issue voter. And
Yes.
I have to explain to them that, it may seem from your data that people vote on single issues, but the fact is that that's what's out there. So that's what drives the conversation, right? They may not know that, your candidate or this official may be aligned with them on healthcare or may be aligned with them on women's rights. They
Mhm.
only hear what they're saying about immigration. So that's how they're voting on. So, how do we bring all of these topics to people and then have people be able to say, look, these are the topics that I'm interested in, that I
Correct.
care about. You may care about immigration, David, but someone else may care about, you know, how is government functioning? Are we getting the most bang for our buck
Sure.
when they collect taxes? Those conversations need to be had and need to kind of help facilitate who actually runs and gets ultimately elected.
Wow. With KYP, what markets have you used this particular data and outreach to voters?
So right now, what we've done is just we've been able to collect data from various sources on officials and upcoming elections. And then we have the use of Chat GPT plus some manual labor to source these candidates' positions. And we combine these two and then we place it all on the platform. And then
Wow.
what we do is we're just marketing in our social media spheres to different people. Like the goal is to really make it simple. So when you come to our site, you'll see that it's just a search bar in the same sense of Google, right? Because
Okay.
that's how we feel it should be accessible to everyone, right? Everyone is familiar with Google and how it works. So what we wanted to do was to help people understand that by your address, you'll be able to identify these are my officials that represent me. Here's their role and why it's important to understand who they are. Here's the actual elected official. And then we can take it a step further to say, hey, your primary in New York was June 27th. These are all the folks that's on your ballot. And then you have your general election in November. These are all the folks and positions that are on your ballot. And what we wanted to do was to destigmatize the Democrats versus Republican concept.
Okay.
So we de-identified a bunch of stances. So you will play this game where the stances are de-identified and you'll go through a couple of stances and at the end you'll see which official stances you liked or disliked. And all of this will tally up and tell you, like, hey, for Evan Higgins, who's running for mayor, you might have liked, six of his stances and disliked three of his stances, right?
Okay.
So it gives you that more holistic view of how you view some of the candidates. Because what we're seeing now, especially as I'm following the 2024 election at the presidential level, right? People are like, they're feeling okay about DeSantis, but then they're like, wait a minute, I'm not so sure now because he has this one stance on this one thing that I'm like, hold on, like I was gonna vote for this guy, but now I'm not so sure anymore, right?
Sure.
And that's how people always felt, but we have no way to capture it. So that was kind of the impetus behind this de-identification to help people understand, like, hey, if you're going to vote for someone, right, you may like six of their things, but there are three other things you don't like. And if those three things you don't like are your priorities, then you might want to reconsider who you're voting for.
Wow. Evan, I thought I had an idea prior to us starting this interview of what KYP is. and I just been blown away. This broadcast will never be released. I'm going to keep it private to myself and work with you exclusively, sign you to an exclusive contract.
Appreciate it.
Wow, this is what you and KB have done. Um, is something that I know in my past, in some of my voter outreach efforts and voter education efforts, try to do on paper or in speaking to someone, or just get someone to speak about where they are on a particular position and say, hey, you may be interested in this particular candidate. However, when you automate, digitize, this process as the way you describe it, I believe you'll have more people engaged in voting and civic duties in elections. This is the democratization. I said it. Democratization of civic engagement. It makes it more user friendly.
Yeah, that was always the goal, right? Like politics is one of the last frontiers in this revolution of we're seeing of consumerism, right?
Yes.
Where everything is centered around the consumer. We look at retail, look at banking, the majority of the industries that exist today. It's all about us, what we want, when we want it, how we want it, at our convenience.
Hmm.
Politics is one of the last frontiers where people are holding on to this idea of how things were done is how things need to be done in the future. And it was mind boggling having interviews with just people in this sphere trying to help them even see the vision of like, do you understand what this tool can be? Like, it's more, it can be so much more if you just open yourself up to the potential of this. And we've been able to connect with folks who are like, man, I really hope you guys succeed because I've been trying to do something like this for decades and it just
Ooh,
had no success. And it's interesting to hear how people that work in politics are viewing this concept and how they understand there's a need and that everyone has their tried and true way, but
yes,
nothing has been proven. And that's always been the hard part where everyone's kind of stopped at the innovation piece. And I
right.
was like, well, that's when you have to just force your way in and disrupt everything.
Thank you. Disruption, innovation. I mean, we consider ourselves the political innovators in our approach towards political campaigns and campaign management. However, what you are doing also is innovation. And to hear you talk about ChatGPT and using AI in this process, tell me a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, so I don't know how familiar everyone is, but ChatGPT can just take a bunch of text and summarize information for us.
Hmm.
So a lot of the time when we first started this process out, we launched in two states, in New York and Massachusetts, because that's where myself and my other co-founder KB was from. And it was a slog to just identify
Yeah.
candidates' information and putting them in a digestible format.
Yes.
With ChatGPT, we can easily simplify it for us. It's like, hey, this is all the information on a candidate's particular stance on criminal justice. I need ChatGPT to summarize this in 3 bullets. And I need it to be at this reading level,
Hmm.
and it'll do it. Obviously, you have to play with it to fine tune it so that you
Sure.
can
Tweak
make
it.
sure that, there's no spelling errors, there's no issues with it because it's still a computer
Sure.
and yeah, still need to do some QA, but that's it really it simplifies the amount of time we have to spend summarizing and thinking about what the message is.
Is there specific goals or tasks or special projects that you and KB are working on to take um, KYP to the next level?
Yeah, so what we just launched in May of this year is the capability for everyone across the United States to search our platform. So you can go from Alaska to Hawaii to Cali to Florida, Texas, Iowa, type in an address, it'll show you all the officials, show you who's on your ballot. So we just launched that in May of this year. Our ultimate goal is we really want to be able to make sure that not only can you see the officials there, but you can donate to them. So I've been talking to a bunch of political finance attorneys to understand the legal ramifications of doing something like that and figure out what is the most apt way to help people donate. Because what I learned in the last few election cycles is if I want to donate to three candidates, I have to get three separate links through whatever platform they're using to receive funds electronically. When I'm like, this should be a very easy, hey, select all the candidates you want to donate to, select a dollar amount, here's my credit card or my account information, and the money's gone. It should be that simple.
Hmm. Wow, there's some folks I want to introduce you to, at least here in Florida, that could help, in that process, particularly financially, to get that platform going. That would be so helpful if people who come to your site and they want to learn about a particular candidate or issue. They like what they see, and they're like, "Hey, I want to support that." You know, boom, here's that donation.
Yep. We
And
also want to be able to collect volunteers as well. Like, I like this candidate. I want to volunteer for them, right? And get, because ultimately this is about engagement with the public, right? We
exactly,
shouldn't have to be, yes, it's still good to canvas folks because again, nothing will ever defeat a personal touch on everything. But
amen.
just even knowing consistently like, hey, these folks are interested in volunteering for Evan Higgins' campaign for mayor, like it saves you the time. You already know someone that's indicated their interest, and then you can gauge them out at what level they want to volunteer at, instead of asking people to help ask people for volunteers the old-fashioned way.
We were talking earlier about a entity that I'm involved in, political salsa here in Florida, and how we'll like to, in its 10th year anniversary next year, bring that to a whole different level. And I believe in what we're trying to do there, and particularly incorporating the blockchain, is it will be a great opportunity to have your platform um, on that particular blockchain. Well, not blockchain, but in that particular format that we're creating for political salsa, so that people could have ready access to the people that are in the room who are running for office, seeking their vote, and be available beyond the actual event, before, during, and beyond the actual event. Again, we want to instill public trust back into our politics, and at the same time, um, decentralize, bring it closer, bring that information closer in a digestible way to attendees and those folks who are unable to attend but are still very much engaged in the political process. You talked about earlier, before we started recording, about a platform that you're creating or have created, where you have the issues of the particular candidate, and it helps, you know, people who are looking at a particular candidate or two determine whether or not their ideas, their values, their kitchen table issues match up with that particular political candidate. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so on our website, because we collect the information on candidates that are running, what we've done is we've de-identified them, and we it's called the Know Your Politician game. And basically, you can select a topic, and you can click through different stances to I see and like or dislike whichever one that appears, and at the end, you get to see the candidate stances that you've liked or disliked, and this can contribute to a running total that you'll see on a candidate profile. So
Mm-hmm.
on our page, what we've done is, because we get this information from various sources, we pull together some statistics like, contact details, name, years in office, etc. And what we wanted to do is build out this profile with these stances where you can see, hey, I like this stance or I didn't like this stance. And ultimately, when you compare, when it gets to the ballot time, you'll be able to see in real time, hey, Evan Higgins was running for office. I liked 6 of his stances. I disliked 3. I see David Washington, he's running for office. I liked 4 of his stances. I disliked 1 of his stances, right? So this way you can kind of see like what's the overall picture you're getting with these candidates that you're running for office, with the concept being that you'll need to be able to say, hey, of these 3 positions I didn't like, or the 1 position I didn't like, is that make or break for me? Is that going to help me push the tide either way for a candidate? And the candidate profile is something else that we're building out in the future that I didn't really get a chance to bring out.
Oh,
So
please.
there's 2 other things that we were looking at building. The first thing, and this has been requested by several people that have demoed the app, they want to see donor data. They want to know who's funding these people when they're running for office, where they're getting their money from.
Thank
And
you.
secondly, probably the most important thing, and one of the factors of why we wanted to build a candidate profile is what are they actually doing when they win? What bills are they proposing? I'm never going to forget this, that I someone told me that there's someone that ran for office in a particular area.
Okay.
They been in office for 8 years and only signed 1 bill. And
Wonderful.
that was mind-boggling. And the establishment couldn't figure out why this person kept getting reelected. They're like,
Right.
they don't do anything. They don't vote on bills. They don't write any bills. They don't co-sponsor anything. They're just getting reelected. And I'm like, that's such an amazing stat. Like people don't know what happens after we vote people into office. There's just no
Right.
mechanism to track all of this stuff in one place that's easy for people to use. Yes, there's a place for you to people to track bills and figure out who's sponsoring them, but like it's not easily accessible to the average person. So like we
Exactly.
want to be able to have a 360 view of these candidates, not only their stances when they're running, but what bills they're supporting, who's funding them. This way we can really be smart and get a holistic picture of what our vote is doing and how it really matters.
Disruption.
Yeah.
This is disruption of a archaic system, a system that needs to be reformed, needs to modernize. And we're talking about AI and the metaverse and Web3 and having these tools available to give us more access to this knowledge. And you're right. Candidates, the Biden candidacy, the Biden Harris presidential campaign in 2020 spent $1 billion to run for president. So the money is out there, but the money is going to the same parties, the same systems that, in a way, doesn't engage the electorate the way it could, the way we could in a modern time like 2023 with AI and so forth and so on. And I like the fact that, one, your enthusiasm, my enthusiasm for what you're doing, the disruption that this is causing for the better to further democratize and gamify the
Yeah.
whole civic engagement process. I love the gamification that you're instituted into Know Your Politician through the Know Your Politician game. What a better way to get people involved, interested, excited, but through playing the game. It's brilliant, Evan. This is really brilliant.
Yeah,
Um,
when we started like so when we this is like the 3.0 iteration of Know Your Politician. So 1.0 we built like a bunch of screens and we just shared it with like friends and family and people that are politically minded, and that was the one thing that they said was such a huge differentiator and why it even interests them to even talk to us, was seeing that and like be having people interact with that, and they're like, man, you're really seeing, helping people understand, like, okay, well, you may say you're democratic, but you might be conservative in some ways, or you might be conservative but you really democrat in some ways, right? And the idea is that these everything is not as binary as we think it is. It's very fluid and it's a
Yeah.
scale. And hopefully the game will bring that forward to people and hopefully pull through in our elections.
Exactly. Oh boy, my mind is going like, okay, I need to introduce Evan and KB to this person, this person. We got to do da 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 da. Evan, is there something, a quote or some words of wisdom that you can leave with our viewers and listeners? Something inspirational that kind of motivates you.
Yeah, I think when we started this back in 2020, the motivation was clear. Like, we can't just protest in the streets anymore. It's while that might be effective in the short term, in the long term, there needs to be a better way to affect whatever change we're looking for. And sometimes it might be worth putting your body on the line. But sometimes it's just
Yeah,
as simple as just making sure you cast your vote for the right people and the people that you believe in. And this just not only goes for our elected officials, it goes for our judges as well. The
indeed.
judicial system is probably the most opaque system that I've learned
Yes,
about in this research process. And just trying to figure out who are some of the judges that you can vote for in certain states, because certain states you can't vote for them, they're appointed by the governor
correct.
or whoever you are at the municipal level.
Mhm.
Like, they hold such power over how things get interpreted. It's why you're seeing things play out at the Supreme Court level. And it just further stresses the importance of making sure that we all vote in our state and local elections. And that's my message to everyone. I know the president isn't running this year. Everyone is hyper focused on who are the candidates on the Democratic Party or the Republican Party or other people running like Dr. Cornel West. We need to make sure we're paying attention to our governors, our mayors, our local representatives and leaders, because they really have way more power than you think they do. And they wield it in ways in which could be helpful or harmful to your community. And it's up to you to figure
Yes,
out who who's
yes.
on your side and let Kip be a partner in that journey.
I love that you speak the truth. Local elections matter, and those judicial races. We have a niche in working with judicial candidates, and Evan, you hit the nail on the head. The people don't know. They see a list of judicial candidates and they don't know. They go to their website. There's so much that they can say without, at least here in Florida, without violating Canon 7 ethics codes and so forth and so on, that you get a vanilla view of a particular candidate, and eh, having the light shed on these particular candidates, whether it's incumbents or those challenging the incumbents, will be a service to the electorate. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. There is a space to shed that light, to be more transparent, very transparent. Evan, where can our viewers and listeners find you on the internet?
Well, you can find us at timetokyp.com. That's where we have our search product where you can just go in and enter your address. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Time to KYP. We have videos and we produce content pretty much on a whole range of topics, from the Supreme Court to why you should vote to letting you know about upcoming elections and how KIP can support you in your voting process.
Excellent. I may just break my personal rule and get back on TikTok just for you guys. Hopefully, we'll see you on LinkedIn soon.
Yeah, you
Um,
will. You will.
and I know that you gained a new follower on Twitter. So it may be a couple of more soon, from at least our folks in the JNW family. Is there any closing words you'd like to have?
No, thanks for having me on. It was great chatting with you, Damon. I enjoyed the conversation. I'm really looking forward to continuing our partnership and building this into something that will hopefully be long standing and lasting and change the way that our country views politics.
I agree, Evan. This has been a passion for me for years, and to have you here with me for this interview again, that word enthusiasm. When I saw your profile through the Black Consultants Group, and Neil Carter, thank you so much for creating the Black Consultants Group and bringing such incredible Black talent together, the entrepreneurs, the business people, the consultants. It's the last several days of interviewing people like Evan has been inspirational. And Evan, it's been my honor to have you here with me, and I am looking forward to sharing some more ideas that I have and introducing you to some of the entities that we're working with, and some of the people that I believe can benefit you and your business. What you're doing is something that I have thought about, and I just haven't been able to, execute a plan, a strategy like you and KB.
Well, we're not the first people to do this. I'm sure we're not going to be the last, but our goal is to be the best. So, and
I like
stand out.
that.
So,
I like that. Thank you so much. Please give my regards to KB. I'll be reaching
I
out to
will.
you. And this has been the David Washington Show. Another great interview. Evan Higgins of Know Your Politician, KYP. Please educate yourselves. Visit their socials, visit their websites. This has been the David Washington Show. I'm David Washington. We'll see you the next time. Thank you, Evan. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.